So I'm brand new in this company, and we're trying to land this massive RFP with a government of another country. And so the people on the other side of the Zoom call ask me, what are the KPIs for this project? And so I grab my phone, I type, what is a KPI? And Google comes back with key performance indicator. And I said, Google, that's not helpful. What does that even mean? And a lot of times I'll talk to business owners about metrics, KPIs, and the best that they can come up with is, well, my bank account balance is higher than it was this time last year, so therefore we must be okay. And while that is a measurement, I would propose it's not the best measurement. So I grew up playing sports, and if you're like me playing sports, you know if you're winning or losing every time you look at the scoreboard. You can look at the scoreboard, it's pretty black and white. Are you ahead or are you behind? And in the same way, I propose that we want to have metrics, we want to have some scoreboard items that let you know on a weekly basis if you are on track or off track towards the outcome that you want. Now, we're not going to necessarily break down goals, milestones. You can see another video for that. But as we move into a weekly meeting cadence and we have the idea of what are our goals, objectives, we're taking the elephant and we're breaking it down into milestones, the little bite-sized pieces. It's the same with your numbers. How do you know if you're on track or off track towards these objectives, and what is the measure that you're using to say that you're winning or you're losing? So if you remember, there are three main business components in every organization that I talk about. The first is the sales component. People that make promises. You have the operations component, people that do the work, and then the finance component, people that make sure you don't go broke. So what are these types of metrics? What are the scoreboard items that you want to see? Well, in sales, it's pretty straightforward. Marketing is a good one. You can say number of leads that you have coming in, number of sales calls that you're on, the number of dollars that you closed. Another good one would be how many estimates did you put out there, how many invoices. Those are all metrics that you can say, how many of these tell us if we're on track. And you can break that down. If you know that you need to make X amount of dollars, you can break that down to how many leads you need. And so if you look at it on a weekly basis, you can say the number of leads we need is 50. If we have 50 leads a week, then that means that we'll have so many sales calls. That means we'll close so many deals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you back all the way up to where is the critical number that tells you if you're on track or off track to make sure that you're not going to have a big issue down the road. That makes sense. The second one is the operations component. And a lot of times I see with the operations components is it usually is a measure of efficiency. How many hours does it take to do a certain job? What does a service call look like? How many board feet per X? And so there's a lot of different ways you can measure the efficiency of operations, but that's usually a metric that you see in the operations component. And then the finance component is taking a lot of finance people love numbers. So you're taking, your debt to income ratio, you're taking, how past due your accounts receivable is, accounts payable. So you're taking all these numbers to give you a picture of are you on track or off track, and if you're going to have an issue coming up in the future. The reason for having these metrics and looking at them on a weekly basis is to say, where are we at? And highlight the issues before they become big issues. Because a lot of times what will happen is if you're not paying attention to the week in, week out, something can happen and you're not seeing the results of it for about 6 months, 9 months, but then 9 months from today, it's not a small issue. It's a major issue. And it's going to cause a lot of heartache and pain. So if you take those numbers and you work yourself backwards and say these are the key numbers, the key metrics that we need to be looking at on a weekly basis to tell us if we're on track or off track. If those metrics are on track, fantastic, you're doing well. If they're off track, you need to make those an issue so that you can talk about them. See what adjustments need to be made so that these small issues don't become big issues if you let them fester too long. Now, metrics is just one of the components inside the framework. If you want to learn more about the framework and how it can simplify your company and get more of your time back, click on the link in this video below, and we'll see you on the next one.